Yeah, you did good too. What's your name?
Noah.
No, that's right. Noah. Yeah, they're brand. Both of you guys are great, and I love the questions and answers and conversation. Hey, Kim, good to see you. So I'm excited to be here. I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and so it was just a little quick drive. Oh yeah, do we have the drive report? He's gonna get it. Okay, great. Yeah, I use that a lot when I teach. So thank you, and I can't wait to talk to you more. I mean, she was telling me so many good things, and she's like, she can help you do this, and she can help you do that. I said, oh no, she's all like the Holy Ghost Junior. Okay. But yeah, it's all about partnerships. It's all about relationships. It's all about collaboration. I believe strongly in that really is the key to really launch you into your perfect destiny. And so just to tell you a little bit about my story, I'm actually from Detroit. I'm a Motown girl, born and raised. And my parents were actually the first African Americans to run a business downtown Detroit. And the Jewish guy that they were talking to get this particular building, he was talking to them, and he had to make a decision on if he was going to, allow this black man to come into Detroit in the 70s. And of course, he made the decision to do that. And so they ran a very successful business for many years called the Greens Records and Tapes. And that was back when people still went to the record store. And they stayed in existence until about 88, and then Dad went into distribution where he started putting CDs into gas stations. And anyway, their retail location did really good. They had a couple locations, and we had everybody come in our store from the Four Tops and Whispers to Michael Jackson. That's back when they were Jackson 5 and Minnie Riperton and Phyllis Hyman and Peter Bryson. And so we have all these pictures of us, me a little girl growing up in this atmosphere. And so Mom and Dad did really, really well. They made millions of dollars for many years. My dad he is a serial entrepreneur. I mean, he just sleeps businesses. I mean, he is a money magnet. He's always had an ability to make a lot of money. And so growing up, we had housekeepers and cooks and drivers, and they had his and her Rolls Royce, his and her Mercedes. At 16, I had a Volvo. And in 19, we lost everything. So I was like, what the heck just happened, And so I started asking my parents a lot of questions because I wanted to understand, what happened. And so, they kind of gave me answers. But, Mom and Dad come from that generation of, your father said, your father said, your father said it. And I was thinking, okay, so what were you thinking? So that really gave me a passion at that point to really want to become financially literate and to understand money, to understand wealth cycles, to understand trends, timing, positioning, and all of that. And so I was blessed to be mentored by several multimillionaires who are very, very savvy in precious metals and oil, and particularly, actually, Ben's cousin owns about 12 oil wells, and we always call him an oil mogul, and he's real modest, like, no, I'm like, no, you got it going on. You got 12 oil wells, you got it going on. Yes. And so we bought our first oil well. It's probably been about 6 years ago now. We have our second one now. And so I help women and men too, but in particularly women, depending on where they're at in their life, to begin to add some of these things into their financial portfolio, whether it's, gold, which I try to help everybody get gold into their financial portfolio. You can save it by the gram for just $68 a gram. It's $1,200 an ounce. And whenever there's a recession, and we have recessions every decade in America, and it's been that way for hundreds and hundreds of years, the key is to make sure that you position yourself that it's the best of times and not the worst of times. Amen. And so I help people do that, and I also help people get a product called Index Universal Life Policy, where it's a life insurance policy, disability, and tax-free retirement income. So that when you get ready to retire at 60, 65, 70, it'll pay you tax-free income every single month until the day you die. And when you die, you still get a death benefit that goes to your beneficiaries tax-free. So I try to make sure women get these kinds of things in their financial portfolio. And then, of course, I'm involved in some commercial real estate deals that we do in building hospitals and a mall up in New York and all kinds of things. And you'd be surprised, like there was a time where you had to have millions and millions of dollars to participate in these kinds of huge products, but you really don't have to. It's just about strategically putting yourself in those positions, finding out what the entry point is, because there was a time where you had to have maybe 5 million or 10 million or 20 million would be the entry point. But now the entry point is like, some of them is 20,000, some is 10. There's even some that are 2,500. So it's just about getting that information and getting into partnerships. And so what I want to mention to you is that wealth is made in cycles, okay? So, so the key is to understand where are we at in the wealth cycle. So I'll put up here wealth cycles. Okay. Now, when you look back and when you look at history, history is always a good indicator to kind of determine where the market is going to go. And when I say the market, I don't mean just Wall Street, because I'm not a real big fan of Wall Street. Tons of people have lost millions and millions of dollars in stocks. I mean, if you got to buy a stock, get a dividend-paying stock. But I'm not a real fan of it because I've had clients lose literally like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and in some cases millions of dollars. And the only thing their financial planner can say is, write it out. Write it out. It'll be okay. Right. Meantime, back at the ranch, they were planning on retiring. Now they can't retire. You know what I mean? So I'm not a real big fan of it. So let me go back. I forgot to tell you a little bit more about my story. So, all right. So going back. So my parents went through that. So I ended up going to University of Michigan and majoring in economics. So I'm an economist by profession. And that's why I talk about money, just like a heart doctor would talk about hearts a lot, or dentists would probably talk about teeth a lot, because that's my area of specialty. Everybody has areas of specialty, but I think for African Americans, and particularly, money is not something that we're used to specializing in. You know, we specialize in hand pops and rings and pot lick and all that kind of stuff. You talk about money, you're like, what are you talking about? Money. Well, no, everybody needs to have an area of specialty, right? So white people got Susie Orman, black people got Jewel Tankard, so it's all good. So anyway, so I ended up graduating from University of Michigan, Dean's List, and ended up making my first $1 million before the age of 30. That was just last year. And so I owned the Nextel franchise in Detroit. And you remember the little 2A radio? Okay, so I owned one of those and I did really well. I grew my business to about 20 employees, and we got big major contracts with like Mishcon, which would be like an Atmos Energy here. So we supplied all of the Nextel radios for the entire Mishcon, all their thousands and thousands of employees. We did some for the city of Detroit, police officers. So we got big contracts in a short amount of time, because I was the only African American minority-owned one in the city of Detroit. And then I had a partner, a business partner that was also very well known. He owned a line of restaurants, soul food restaurants. So anyway, that did really well. And then one day I went to a Ben Tankard concert. Yes. And it was up doing his thing, and I was sitting in the audience, and I felt like he was looking at me. So I put on my gloss, make sure my lipstick, my lip gloss was popping. So I started really thinking, I was getting my praise on. He was up, you know, doing his thing and exhorting and playing and preaching, and I was like, oh Lord, just like I love him. I mean, this brother's tall and dark and bald-headed Jesus, and you know, two of us sitting outside. I said, oh Lord, yes. Now, mind you, I had been married before, and when I got married, I married this guy that I invited to come to our church. And so he started coming to church, and then we started having Bible study together. You know, that was not a good idea. Never have Bible study with the opposite sex if you're single. And so, that was not God. But you know, I thought it was God. It was God, yeah. And so anyway, we ended up getting married, and so my pastor told me, he said, I don't think you should marry him. I think you should wait. And I was like, he is going to be just fine. He is saved, and with the Holy Ghost, and he go to church and all of that stuff. And so anyway, we ended up getting married anyway. And so the first week I knew it was a wrong decision. And so 2 years I went through verbal abuse and physical abuse. And one day he thought he was gonna beat me with a belt, and it's just crazy. And I got a play that's coming out, and I go deep, so you guys have to come to the play to see the real download. But it was a mess. So anyway, he called one day after 2 years of being married and said, okay, I'm not coming back. I said, amen, thank you, Jesus. And so I went out and got me a new wig, and I was gone. So I went out and got a new wig, went to Hilton Head with some girlfriends, and never looked back. And we had a beautiful baby girl out of the marriage. And so then for 3 years, I really kept myself. I was focused on business and focused on my relationship with God, and, you know, making sure I was there for my daughter, because she was a baby at the time. And so when I met Ben, she was 3. And so anyway, that night, Ben came up to me during intermission. He said, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You're supposed to be my wife. And I said, amen, brother. And I went in the bathroom, and I was like, Jesus, don't play with me. I'm having nervous breakdown. If this is not for real, Jesus. Because it just seemed like, I was like, I don't think I ever heard that line. I'm thinking, I've heard a lot of stuff, but I never had no brother step to me like he stepped to me. And I felt like he meant it, but I was like, does he do this in every city? You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking to myself. And so anyway, we exchanged numbers and took me and toured the tour bus that night. And then we, that night, so probably about an hour after I left the concert, he called me and we talked all night to 4 o'clock in the morning. He said, you're gonna live your dream, we're gonna fly over the world. And I mean, he was coming so strong. And I went home and I told my parents, and they were like, you don't even know this guy. Because I was like, I think he's my husband. They're like, And so anyway, I told them, I said, you gotta come up and meet my pastors and my parents, because I'm not dating you until I know, because you are my kind. I need full accountability, because I'm not having sex with you unless we get married. Unless we get married, okay, it's all good. I said, unless we get married. So anyway, he came up, he flew back up to Detroit that following month and met them, and so we courted for about a year, and now we've been married for 15 years. So it's really powerful. So anyway, so wealth is made in cycles. So the key is to understand, where are we at in the wealth cycle? So when you think about wealth, initially you probably think about the agricultural, and that's what the whole slavery piece was about, because agriculture, everything was land, and with slavery, what happened? Slaves were free labor. That's why it was such a fight, because, you know, imagine, it would be easy for you to own thousands of acres of land and plantations and things like that if you have free labor. And so that's why it was such a fight to come out of that. So then what happened, we saw the Industrial Revolution happen, and then after the Industrial Revolution, that's when we started seeing industry or factories were birthed. That's what the whole Industrial Revolution was about. So factories came out of this, and so what happened, we know after land, then you had your free labor, and then once slavery was over, what happened? You had indentured servants, right? So people started getting used to working for just shelter and just food. So that mindset, where our people are concerned particularly, was like, as long as I got a roof over my head, come on, food on my table. So that whole mindset came from that era. And so what happened was, when factories came into place, this is where the middle class were birthed, and this was huge, because it was like, oh my goodness, I now can get a job with what? Benefits, right? Everybody wanted a job with benefits, and now not only could you have a roof over your head and food on the table, but you can have 2 cars, come on. You can have a nice house, come on, and an all-white neighborhood, come on. You know, that's the 60s, 70s. And so factories became very, very big. So at that point, for most people, they stopped dreaming there, because they said, it used to be all about what? Roof on their head, food on table. Now I got 2 cars, and I got a house. And so we live in a what? Decent life. We do what? Okay. So what happens is, we got real comfortable with what? Okay. Because we got our needs met. So what happened was, when our needs became met, unfortunately, a lot of us stopped dreaming. Because it was like, this was the be-all, end-all. And for most of us, we were the first generation. If there was going to be wealth to be made, what happened? For the most part, it had to come from us, or in some of our cases, our parents. It's like, this was it. So this really kind of, this whole birthing of the middle class, really, you know, it was a blessing on one end, but on the other, it wasn't so good, because it made us begin to settle. And it made us begin to despise those who had rose above that, who she thinks she is, who he think he is. That mindset became pervasive in our communities, and particularly because it was like, as long as I got my needs met. But no, you didn't think that. You were trained to think that, and you just ran with that thought process. But there's a whole world out there, there's a whole globe out there that needs to be conquered, and ideas and concepts and inventions. But first, we got to get past this mindset of, I'm doing okay, because define for me what okay. And like she said, success is, it definitely is a lot more than money. But at the same time, understand, money dictates where you sleep at night, what you drive, what sheets you sleep in, what count are your sheets. Come on, somebody. That's what comforter set. You have to have the same comforter year after year. Can you change it with the seasons? Come on. And determine what dishes you eat on, what school your children go to, if they can travel abroad, if they can go to camp. It dictates every single area of our lives. What health care you get. Can you eat organic food? Can you juice every day? What it costs to juice every day. Okay, it costs to eat the best and go to best places. It costs. Right. So all of these things, money impacts every single area of our lives. But if we've been taught that money is evil or money is bad, then what will happen? We will repel it. Because you cannot attract what you do not believe in.
That's right.
So you got to make up in your mind that you're supposed to have the best. And then when you reset your standard and get with other people that will confirm that there is nothing wrong with dreaming big and having much. Okay? All right, so this is where we see industries or factories were birthed in this particular area. Then after that, we saw technology. Really, really bright. That's right. Technology just went crazy. Okay? Started with the computers, and then after that, I mean, it just went crazy from there. So, you know, everything from Facebook to Instagram. So now our marketing has totally changed. I mean, there was a time where people had to hire these big marketing firms to, you know, to distribute their skincare. Now you can do a video with putting on your skincare before and after, or get some friends to do it and have them testify on the video about why they need to get your products. Put a link at the bottom, come on now, and push the button, and then start pushing it on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat. You just go where the people are, and you keep doing it long enough. You can't feel like, oh, I did it one time and then nobody responded. No, you got to keep doing it because you're building a brand. So that means every time you go out, you can't go out with dirty butter in your eyes. You got to go out looking right, because why? The skincare is a part of your brand. So when people see you, they need to see your brand. And then get some other girls that love your brand that will get out there and talk about it and share those posts. And so there are more celebrities coming forward because of social media than any other time. Yeah. There are more millionaires right now being made than any other time in history. Yes. So now it's just about staying consistent with the same messaging, saying the same thing over and over again. So technology became really big. So imagine if you got in on this before you knew it hit. Because it's all about time. Imagine if you did buy shares of Facebook or Instagram, or you started, you know, or you start using it in your business. You start implementing it. So now we're in this whole what we call techno entertainment. So everything is like, oh my gosh, technology, entertainment, technology, entertainment, technology, entertainment. So almost in whatever area that you are called to, whether it's skincare or no matter what area, if you infuse your business in that, then your business literally can end up going viral if you just stay consistent with it. Well, wealth is made the same way. So it's all about understanding where we are we now, and then where's the next cycle. And so this is what happens. So I'm going to erase this and then kind of give you this example. Okay, so we said every how often is there a recession?
10 years.
Every 10 years, every decade there's a recession. So when was the last recession? Oh, what, 8, right? Okay, so now we're in 2016, right? Yeah. We're in an election year, right? Does it really matter who gets in the office, whether it's Trump or Hillary, there's going to be a recession?
Yes.
So the key is to make sure that you position yourself so that it can be the best of times. So this is what happened. So in the 1930s was the Great Depression. Yes. What was one of those families that you heard that became very wealthy? Kennedys and who else? Vanderbilt, Rockefellers, what? Okay, do you know one of the things that they owned? Do you know what's one of the main commodities that they owned? Oil and
land.
Gold. Yes, gold. And you know what they did? They took that gold and they went and purchased land. Okay, so when should you buy real estate? Ideally. In a depression. I mean, real estate actually would be, if you can get a decent deal, you can get it. But in a depression, because everybody is letting it go for a little bit of nothing.
Yes.
They're like letting it go. And so what do we have? What can we learn from the Great Depression?
Get ready.
Get ready.
Right. Be prepared. Make sure that you're owning the right commodity, so that because this is how wealth is transferred. Because when you hear people say things like, "Oh, I lost a lot of money in the market," no, where did it go? It wasn't lost. It was transferred.
It was transferred.
Because money never evaporates. It never leaves the earth. It simply moved. It simply shifted.
Yes.
Okay, did you hear what happened in Greece last year?
Yes.
November. What happened in Greece? Greece, the government could not pay their debt, their national debt. So it collapsed, okay? So what happened was they said, we're gonna do what they call a bail-in. Bail-in is when the citizens of that particular country have to now help them pay their debt. So what they did is they closed all the banks, okay, and called it a bank holiday. That ain't no bank holiday.
Right.
If you close the bank and I can't get my money, it ain't Christmas. Open this bank up.
Right.
Okay? So what did they do? When they opened those banks back up, the money, a lot of their money was gone because they had been confiscated because Greece said, we need your money so we can help, so you can help us pay off the national debt.
Right.
And while the banks were closed, each citizen of Greece could only get 60 euros per day from an ATM machine. Okay, so the ATM machine where lines are wrapped around the corner. Okay, that was crazy. So they opened the bank back up. They had $225,000 in their account. Now they're sitting there with $125,000. What happened? Oh, you lost money in the market. No, you didn't lose it. It was transferred. And so what happens is many of us have kept doing the same thing over and over again because it's all we know to do. Well, I got my money in the market. I lost a lot in 08, but we're just going to see. My planner said ride it out. Just like your doctor told you had to stay on that prescription medicine for the rest of your life because that's what he was trained to do. But you can go get some natural supplements and change your diet and get off that medicine. Okay. So I have no problem with financial planners. I love financial planners. We have a financial planners. But let me tell you something. The uber wealthy and the nations, though they may consult with them, they do their own financial education and they make their own decisions. That's why many of them do business in what we call a self-directed bank, where they determine what goes into that into their retirement portfolio. Okay? All right, so money is never what?
Lost.
It's just what?
Transfer.
Okay, it's just transfer. So the key is to understand where is the money going. So now in the year 2000, gold was going for $300 an ounce. By 2011, it was sitting at $19.50 per ounce. So if you would have had a good amount of gold, you could have experienced a tremendous what?
Transfer.
That's why during times of recession, the rich get richer.
Yes.
The poor get poorer. The only difference between the rich and the poor is information. That's it. I already got one. Thank you. Or we can have that one right there. Yeah. That's the only difference between the rich and the poor. Is information. So the key is to make sure you get the right information and start adding the right things onto your financial portfolio. The best thing that you can do out of every single dime that you make is pay yourself.
Yes, first.
Pay yourself. This is how mine works. Tithe offering, myself, IRS.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I would rather you negotiate a bill being paid than not pay yourself.
Right.
You have to pay yourself. It is the greatest thing that you can ever do.
Amen.
Because you have to ask yourself this question. When I get ready to retire, how much money do I need to live on every single year to the day that I die? And you have to ask yourself that. And then you have to ask yourself, am I paying? Do I have financial products in my portfolio that will support that? Because with the 401k, let's just say somebody here has $1 million in their 401k. How much money do you need to live every year right now? Huh? How much money would be nice?
200,000, 300,000.
Okay, 200,000, 300,000. If you had $1 million in your 401k, how many years is that going to last?
3.
That's going to last about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
The tax is about a year and a half.
Absolutely. Which is why it's important to get tax-free returns.
That's right.
Very important. So you're absolutely right. So it's not so much about, people are like, well, if you do this financial product, it's going to help deduct your taxes. I'm not so concerned about paying taxes today, even though I do want to get as many write-offs as I can. Trust and believe that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to have to be fooling with paying taxes in 30, 40 years when I retire.
Exactly.
Okay, so you got to make sure that you're paying yourself enough, and you have to be thinking about long-term. Okay, so now watch this. 2016, gold is what we would consider at an all-time low, sitting at about $1,200 an ounce. Gold is predicted during the next recession on a minimum to get up to about $20,000 per ounce. And I have several global economists that I follow. every single day, Robert Kiyosaki, Mike Maloney,
Yes.
Jim Rohn. I mean, I follow these guys on a daily basis. I have a club called Millionaires Club. And basically that club is for people to get financial education. And I do a webinar with my club members, usually twice a month. And we talk about every kind of wealth strategy that there is. I deal with entrepreneurship, but I really deal more with the money aspect, because I have found that a lot of entrepreneurs out there make money, but they are not paying themselves. And so they put everything back into the business. And my thing is kind of like you said, you got to have you at least 4 streams of income, make everything pay for itself. So when my daughter went to Howard, I said, okay, I got to create a business to pay for that.
Yes.
Okay, when we say, okay, we're getting, we're about to, get this property. Okay, what source is going to pay for that property?
Yes.
Because if the problem is we've been living, like you said before, we've been living from one stream. And so that's why you strapped. Because you got to always be prepared. Well, what if that stream dry up for whatever reason? Or maybe it's in a transitional season, or maybe it's in an infancy season. So like she said, you can't leave your job and say, I'm doing skincare today. No, don't leave your job. Make sure that the skincare can now pay for itself, and not just pay for itself, but pay you.
Right.
So now that way you don't get yourself in a crunch.
Right.
So the key is to make sure that you're ahead of this. Because the time to buy gold is not going to be when the recession hits and it's sitting at $20,000 an ounce. You miss the transfer.
Right.
So that's the key. The key is to understand where are we at in the wealth cycle, where are we going, and you know what? I look at graphs and history to determine what moves I make. I don't just make a move, even though I trust my instinct, I greatly trust it, but I also look at the probability and the statistics of how these things have performed over the last 100 years, which will help me determine, well, if it's performed this way over the last 100 years, you can pretty much bet it's going to perform the same way.